Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us on this live stream. Really appreciate it, especially when it's this close to home time. So if you're at work, get back to work, but have this open in the background. Whereas if you're at home, maybe crack a beer open. So today, what are we going to be chatting about? Well, I just took delivery of my Ranger Raptor. Up on the screen here in front of me, I can see all your questions coming through. So ask as many as you want. I'm going to try and answer as many as I can as we go. And also as part of this as well, if you do want your question read out first, you can use Super Chat on YouTube or Facebook Stars, and that will come up here in front of me. I'll be able to see it, and any money that you put in for that will actually go to helping us buy new equipment, getting me a new jumper and stylist and all that sort of stuff. So first up, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone for your support on the channel. It has grown so quickly over the past 2.5 years. We're genuinely blown away by it, and it's meant that we can actually spend money on equipment and do fun stuff like this, which is actually very taxing and hard to do. So Igor was behind all the equipment here today, getting it all set up. We're able to hire Lang Lang, literally a proving ground to do all of our video stuff. So we really do appreciate everyone watching. And I thought we'd show you this graph as well. We've just gone through the process of upfronts for the website, and we've given people that sort of spend money with us an idea of how our channel's doing. And it wasn't until I actually saw this graph that I was like, holy crap, we are actually doing pretty well there in terms of numbers. So what you're looking at is our YouTube views compared to some of our competitors. And you can see that there are some months there where we get more views than all of our competitors combined, which I'm super happy about. So very proud of the achievement our team has put together here. And that big spike was our medium SUV comparison. We have a giant ute comparison coming that we'll be slaving over next week. So stacks of content coming up there. So I'll move on to the next thing very quickly as well, which is our good friend Oscar. So if you do subscribe to our channel, Oscar suffers from muscular dystrophy, and Oscar's mum reached out to us and mentioned that Oscar wanted to meet me. And I thought, well, look, anyone that wants to spend time with me is very brave. So we thought we'd put on a fun day out for Oscar. And the fun day out that we put together included a drag race, which Oscar hosted for us, and also a trip to Macca's, meeting some police. He got to see some highway patrol officers in a Kia Stinger. And look, if you do want to help us support muscular dystrophy and the Save Our Sons Foundation, please head to our YouTube channel and have a look at Oscar's day out, the video. Every single dollar of revenue from that video is going to go to the Save Our Sons Muscular Dystrophy Foundation. And then in addition to that as well, you can support that video with super thanks as well. Every single dollar we get from that will go to charity as well. So please check that out. Here's a quick snippet from that video as well, just to give you an idea of what we went through and how all that went. So Igor, roll it up. We are ready for your countdown, and I promise I'll be ready this time.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go!
Yes! No!
The Lambo dot that. The Lambo dot that.
Oh, that's so annoying.
The Lambo won.
Even with a jump start. Okay, that's fair and square. Elbows is the winner. Alrighty, so thank you again for everyone that has watched that and supported that as well. And Nigel Brown, come on, FFS, I know what that stands for. Get on with it. Thanks, Nigel. Sorry, we're just trying to support charity here, but thank you and sorry for wasting so much of your time. All right, let's get on with, I have my Raptor now. So I collected it from Maric Ford in Port Macquarie, and a lot of people asked, why did I go to Port Macquarie to pick up the Ranger Raptor? Well, there was a simple reason. I wanted to, support a regional dealer instead of just going to a city dealer, but also when I put the call out to social media for the Ranger Raptor when I was first going to pick one of these up, I didn't want to trample on any customers' toes, so I wanted a dealer that was able to give me an allocation that wasn't going to affect other customers. And George, the dealer principal at Maric Ford, actually offered me his personal car, so it meant that no customers were going to be affected. So I really do appreciate that, and it means that I took his ride and went through there to pick it up. What we're doing as part of a video that's going to go live next week, I actually go through the pre-delivery process, because when you do buy one of these cars, you pay money to a dealer for the pre-delivery process, and there is a lot of work that goes into getting a vehicle ready as part of that pre-delivery process. So the video that we have going live next week, I'll run through that entire process. I was actually pretty surprised by it as well. There was a lot that actually happens there. It isn't just a quick wash and your car's ready. They go through a fair bit of stuff there to prepare the vehicle. Question there from Beast Tex. Has asked, have you heard if the 2024 Toyota Hilux coming to Australia with a 3.3 litre V6 diesel, approximately 250 kilowatts, 700 Newton meters? Look, we hear a lot of stuff on Hilux, and before I sort of get on with Ranger Raptor stuff here, I'm going to be reading out all of the messages that come through with super thanks or Facebook stars immediately, so I'll stop what I'm doing and get straight onto those, so thank you for chipping in there as well, mate. Yeah, look, the Hilux will be interesting because obviously Toyota now has, I guess, a benchmark in the segment for technology, performance, that kind of thing. And the Hilux is very dated at the moment on all of those fronts. So I think that Toyota is acting very quickly to get this sorted. What I have heard is they'll drop that 3.3 litre V6 diesel from the Land Cruiser 300 series into Hilux. If they do that, that's obviously a big step forward in terms of giving that a bit of punch, and to me, I think that is the most logical step for them. It's actually a really good engine in the Land Cruiser, especially paired to that 10-speed automatic transmission, and I think it will work well in Hilux. But where Ford has an advantage at the moment is on technology and also how the car feels behind the wheel. It has a wider track, which they've now implemented in Hilux Road, but not on the rest of the Hilux range. You get disc brakes on the higher variants of Ranger as well. So Toyota's going to have to do more than just dropping that diesel engine into it. But knowing Toyota, they would definitely be working on this. They've also said that they're working on a competitor for the Raptor as well. And clearly, if the Raptor is a concern to them, which I think it is, they're probably going to put a bit of effort behind it. They do have a V6 petrol hybrid version of some of their bigger pickup trucks available in the States, and I'm hoping that finds its way into Hilux. But you know, Ranger Raptor is a pretty special vehicle from the sense that it is more than just a big engine in a dual cab ute. It really is the full package there. So I'll jump on to, I mentioned how I got one earlier, but I mentioned in the sort of preface of this video, how much you should be paying for dealer delivery on your Ranger Raptor. Now, we covered a story a little while back on CarExpert about people getting ripped off by dealers with dealer delivery. Some were talking about $5,000 or $6,000 dealer delivery. When it comes to a recommended retail price, that is the price that Ford as a company in Australia sets for their vehicle. It's then up to the dealer to charge that to the customer. But where the dealer has variance is in dealer delivery. They can make up whatever number they want there. They're given a guide by Ford, but the rest is all just up to them. The dealer delivery process includes a number of things. So it is the pre-delivery that I mentioned earlier and that we'll detail in the video that goes live next week. It's also getting the car from the docks to the dealership as well. So obviously the further the dealership is, the more it's going to cost. Depending on how the dealership is set up, they'll either share that cost amongst all dealers or they'll pay for their share of the distance as well. So obviously if you're a dealer that's right next to the docks, you shouldn't need to pay as much, but then the more regional dealers will pay more for dealer delivery. So just depending on how the company works, it will sort of vary the way that it does that. So how much should you be paying for dealer delivery on your new Ranger or Ranger Raptor? Well, you shouldn't be paying any more than $2,000. And the reason for that is that $2,000 will cover everything that they're doing. It's basically a full day of work on your car in that process of getting it ready, plus the delivery to the dealership as well that is amortized across a number of vehicles and other dealerships too. So if you are looking at getting a new Ford Ranger and the dealer wants to charge you more than $2,200 for dealer delivery, I would be questioning that. The problem is a lot of dealers are simply saying, okay, well, if you don't want to pay that, that's fine. We'll just cancel your order, give you a refund. Obviously, it's a bit of annoyance if you're waiting 6-12 months for your car and it finally arrives and they tell you, hey, you now have to cancel and start again. So obviously weigh that option up. But to me, you really shouldn't be paying any more than $2,000 to get your car, and there isn't enough work involved for it to be costing $5,000. It is just the dealer taking the piss. And if that does happen, make sure you name and shame that dealer, because it isn't fair that customers get ripped off like that as part of that process. So let's run through a few questions that are just coming in here. I'll start off with YouTube. Beast Tex again. Thank you again for that super chat, mate. How's the real world fuel economy? So the sticker on the car says, I think it's 11.5 litres per 100 Ks or something like that. I can tell you that the best you'll ever achieve is highway driving, and the lowest I've seen is 11.1. So I drove it from Port Macquarie all the way back to Melbourne, and the lowest we got to was about 11.1. Now, there are a number of reasons for that. It sits quite high off the ground. It isn't exactly the most aerodynamic car in the world. Even with those recovery hooks on the front, you have covers that sit on there. I left mine off, but obviously that is another place for air to sort of mix and slow the vehicle down, cause the engine to work harder. So yeah, keep that in mind. Don't buy this car if you want efficiency. It is not an efficient vehicle. So 11 is the lowest you'll ever see, and that's with highway driving. If you then start driving it in and around the city, it'll be closer to 15. And then if you really do get stuck into it and drive a little bit stupid, you are going to be nudging 20 litres per 100 Ks. So keep that in mind. It is not the most efficient vehicle in the world. Somebody else asked whether it runs on 91, 95 or 98. It'll actually run on all of those. So I'll be feeding mine 98, and I would always feed at 98 anyway. The quality of unleaded fuel in Australia is terrible. The sulfur content of 91 and 95 RON is really bad. 98 RON is better, but still not amazing. So I would only put 98 through it. It has been engineered to work on 91 and 95 though. So if you do happen to feed at 91, it will work fine. You just won't get the same output that you do get with 98 RON. So just keep that in mind. If you do want peak output, you want to go down the path of 98. We actually did a dyno test as well not that long ago, where we strapped the Ranger Raptor, the V6 diesel and the 4-cylinder diesel onto a dyno. It was just a rolling road dyno to see the power outputs, and Ranger pumped out a little over 200 kilowatts at the wheels. Some of you were jumping up and down about how that was wrong and how the guy operating the dyno had no idea and all that sort of stuff. Look, he runs literally a performance workshop and dynos like 1,000 horsepower, 2,000 horsepower cars for a living. So I don't think that was an issue. We will actually be doing, as part of our massive ute test, a number of different dyno experiments with all of the utes in this segment. So that means we'll be able to repeat the test again. It'll be on a rolling road dyno, and I'll be keen to see what the result is. If it's the same, I think it's pretty conclusive that the big old 33s are probably sapping a little bit of energy from the whole package, but I was pretty impressed with how the V6 diesel and the 4-cylinder went. So we have a question here from Facebook. Harvey Adafin has left us some Facebook stars, so really appreciate that, mate. He's come up with a message. Hey, Paul, I was just wondering, do you have any idea when it's going to be out in Canada? Look, with the North American rollout, when we were at Love Day, which is the off-road facility Ford was testing at earlier in the year that I had a chance to tag along to, they actually had an F-150 Raptor. They had a number of high-level executives from Ford's sort of North American operations. What they were doing is getting to the point where they were figuring out whether Ranger Raptor meets the DNA that they've set with F-150 Raptor. And no doubt that is to make sure as well that it works for the US market. So I think a launch in the US is imminent. Ford has already announced that they're taking the Ranger Raptor to the Baja 1000, and they've entered the sort of stock class. So the fact that they're actually going to that effort is probably going to lead into the launch of this for the States. And I think when this launches in the States, it's going to go gangbusters, because the States is going to mean a lot of open doors for tuners. It will really just go to town on making this more of an F-150 Raptor sibling than the current Ranger is over there. So I suspect Canada will be included in that rollout shortly after. My tip is 2023, early 2023, but let's see what happens. They have been pretty slow with news on the US, so my fingers and toes are crossed that you guys get it pretty soon. Question from Facebook from Joseph Horder. Is it loud enough to annoy the neighbours? The good news is, yes, it actually has, when you switch it on, there's a setting in the menus that allows you to start it quiet. but when you do switch it on with a cold start, it actually starts with the bimodal exhaust open. So it actually makes a pretty decent racket. I live in an apartment building, so it actually sounds awesome in the apartment complex. It actually sets off car alarms in Baja mode, which I reckon is pretty cool. That's always a good sign of a decent exhaust. So yeah, it does sound pretty cool. And yeah, in Sport Baja, it actually makes a lot of noise on the outside. So if your goal is to annoy the neighbours, then yes, definitely it will. Let's jump over to YouTube. Steve Towing has asked, 3.5 tonne with a Ranger, good idea or nah? So I think that's probably more tailored towards Ranger than Ranger Raptor. Ranger Raptor has a limited towing capacity due to the suspension. In terms of, is it a good idea to tow? Look, to me, I don't know, towing 3.5 tonnes with any dual cab ute probably isn't the best idea in the world, simply because it is a lot of trailer weight to be towing with a vehicle that doesn't weigh as much as your trailer. So that's always something worth keeping in mind. I keep harping on about our ute test, but we will be doing a big ute test over the next weeks that we'll release video on down the track. Part of that is actually going to be towing, and we're taking it one step further. While most of our competitors do these sort of pretty dinky and average ute tests, we are actually going to be doing some really thorough testing and some scientific testing as well, so that when you go put your money down on a dual cab ute, you're going to have a better idea of how that ute is going to work, especially when you're towing as well. So that is something just to keep in mind, that you really want to be on top of that. Anthony, a lion forever, donated 99 cents through a super chat. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. So over to YouTube with Puneet Kumar. How's the exhaust sound? So I mentioned earlier, sounds awesome. I think they've done a really good job with it. Herod Performance did some work on the Baja 1000 Ranger Raptor that they're setting up. So I'll be interested to see how that goes, because Herod has been tinkering in that, and if Rob is as good as I know that he is, he's probably going to go to town on Ranger Raptor as well. I cannot wait to have a drive of one of those with some extra power. It is going to be colossally crazy, especially in the wet. Haida Ascari asked, what plates did you end up getting? Hey, by the way, if you have any ideas of registration plates, custom registration plates I should get for my Ranger Raptor, please send them through in the comment section. So keep in mind, in Victoria, it has to be 6 characters, and it has to be available, and you can check availability at, what is it, customplates.com.au, I think is, or is it vplates.com.au? Oh, I should know this. One of those, but if it is available, please let me know in that comment section there. Thank you again, Anthony, for donating through Super Chat. Appreciate that, mate. So I actually had a set of plates picked out, and long story short, and I'll tell this story one day, but today is not the right day, the PC police came in and basically I had to change the plates. So I've had to go with another set of plates, unfortunately. The other set I'm sure will be as comical, but I still haven't locked them in. So if you have any other ideas, please keep them coming through. There were some incredibly cool ideas that were sent through on Instagram when I asked this, but if you do have any other ideas, shoot them through in the chat section as well. Sea Fury 18 asked, is the Ranger suitable for a mostly city life? Most of the time I simply commute to work, but I want a ute that I can use for my adventure journeys. Yeah, look, to be honest, I think this is the ultimate daily, because the ride is set up for comfort, and the comfort setup is excellent. So it's not like a leaf sprung ute where you have to have a bit of load in it for it to be comfortable. This uses the live valve setup from Fox Racing, and I think that they've really just struck a perfect balance there in terms of the ride comfort. And as a daily, it doesn't breach any height limits. So like I said, I live in an apartment building, and I'm able to fit that easy into the apartment building without any dramas. If you look at something like a Ram TRX, you can't get that into most apartment buildings because it is over height. And in terms of a daily, like, you will have additional fuel use, but if you're comfortable with that, this is just as easy to park as the rest of them. It comes with all the safety tech, all the parking tech, all the cameras. So it really is just the same as any other Ranger, except with a killer engine that is really versatile for day-to-day driving as well. So keep that in mind. Question there from Anthony, a lion forever. He's asked, tail shaft and rocket head gasket issues with the new Raptors, a lot of them with that issue. Yeah, I have heard of the tail shaft issue. I didn't think that was for Raptor. I think that was just for V6 diesel. If that's not the case, let me know, especially if you're a Ford dealer, because obviously Ford doesn't share this information with us unless we find out and ask it. So if you're a Ford dealer or someone that works within Ford that has this information, please feel free to get in touch with me on social or shoot us an email at the website at carexpert.com.au, because if we do find out about these issues, I can follow them up and ask them to explain exactly what the story is there. So yeah, I want to get a better idea of whether I should be investigating that or not. I did notice that when they are idling, they have a fairly rough idle, and I did notice that in all of the cars I've driven, so not just mine in particular. So it is just worth keeping that in mind, that yeah, I'll be keen to see what happens there with this and whether this stuff turns into any issues, but no issues with mine just yet. We've just had a super sticker come in from Pino Clean. He said it's a hot dog with ketchup. Bloody oath. So thank you for shooting that through. Ollie Knight on YouTube. How many Raptor Rangers will be purely used as grocery getters and never touch dirt? I reckon a stack of them, and I don't know if it's just because I've bought one that I'm seeing a lot on the road now, but I'm seeing so many of them out on the road, and it is really cool to see, because every time I see one, I'm like, hey, you go, you're doing good stuff there. I reckon a lot of these will be used as a daily, and look, I guess it's no different to buying a, an SS Commodore or something and driving that as a daily. This is kind of the same thing. What this can do off-road is bloody incredible though, especially the stuff with the jumps. So once I get my car registered, it's currently unregistered, I will be determined to do a jump in it, because I want to see how well it works, and yeah, maybe we'll give away a prize if you can guess how high it jumps or something like that. I'll see what we come up with. Sam Green has asked, when are ventilated front seats coming? Pretty disappointing it was left out of the Raptor and even the Wild Track when it's an option on the Everest. Yeah, I agree. It's really strange, because I would have thought that would just be a logical addition. There is a chance that the seats aren't capable of ventilation, and I don't know whether that's correct or not. I need to have a proper look at them, but I know with typically seats that have ventilation, they have perforations in them. Actually, there's a picture of our seats up there. Doesn't look like they have any perforations. So yeah, you have to have perforations for the air to come through, so maybe that's something that they're still working on. The other problem as well is they've thrown the feature book at this, and unfortunately, when they throw the feature book at it, it means they need to leave a little bit of room for upgrades and stuff that come down the track with model updates and whatever. So look, there's a chance that is all still yet to happen, and we will probably see ventilated seats at some point, but I agree, it would have been nice to see those, definitely. Question there from Jaden Basco. Would you pick a Bronco Raptor over a Ranger Raptor? I'd love to drive the Bronco Raptor. It looks absolutely awesome, I reckon. And would I pick one over a Ranger Raptor? Probably, because I'm not actually, I don't use a ute for anything. So yeah, so I think that, yeah, I would probably simply go down the path of a Bronco Raptor if I had that option. So hopefully they will actually do that at some point. From Facebook, Adam White said, tail shaft was single weld spot issue on less than 80 vehicles, confirmed from fleet dealers. So there you go. So I think it was a limited issue. I don't think it really stopped the whole production line, but it was something that they identified fairly early. So let me know if you've heard otherwise. Happy to follow it up if that is the case. Brock Gaming Garage mentioned in-car phone mix is terrible. Sounds like a recall later to fix roof sound deadening or similar. That's a good point. I actually hadn't noticed that. I made a stack of phone calls while I was driving back from Port Macquarie, and I didn't notice any issues with that. So something that I will keep my eye on. Ayush Duwadi said, Raptor or Supra, which provides most fuel economy? Oh, definitely the Supra. The Supra was really efficient for a 6-cylinder. Also much lighter than a Raptor. The Raptor is, I think it's like 2.4 tons or something, so it is a whopper of a thing by the time they make all those chassis changes. Wally Sleeman, how many kilometres do you get out of a full tank? Depends how you drive. So when we had our first press car and I was being a bit silly and driving like a bit of a maniac, we ended up getting about 250 k's out of a tank, which isn't really a lot. I thought it may have been a small tank, but it turns out it was actually an enormous tank, like 80 litres or something. So it is just very inefficient if you're up it. Supra is much more efficient than that. Beast Tex, thank you again, mate. Another donation there. V8 Raptor. Yeah, okay, I see where you're going there. I don't know why V8 though. It's a V6, so maybe we wish it was a V8. I don't know, I do. Well, maybe a V8 would be nice. We'll see how it goes. Keanu, Michael Alex on YouTube. So do the Raptors have beadlock wheels on them, or is that a cosmetic thing? Okay, good question. So I ordered mine with the beadlock capable rims. What that means is that from the factory, they have a rim on the car that is beadlock capable. They are heavier per corner. They are delivered to the customer with a dress ring on them. So that is what you see on the car. It makes it look like it has a smaller wheel, but it is actually just a dress ring around it. You have to then buy an accessory kit for the beadlocks bucks in addition to that. So the actual option was like 1,500 bucks or something like that. You then have to buy the accessory kit to fit the bead locks to it. You then can't drive on public roads with bead locks fitted. They're illegal. So you have to get to your destination, fit the bead locks to the vehicle, and then drive off-road. So that is worth keeping in mind. It's not actually a legal thing to have. So Rod Clark on YouTube, what is Ford Australia after-sales service like? Good question. I'm very keen to find out because I don't know, I've heard mixed things and I'll be keen to see what it's actually like for me. Service I had from Maric Ford was sensational. And look, obviously I'm coming in, we're filming stuff there, they have an incentive to be great, but just based on the feedback I've seen about that dealership, they care a lot about the customers and the fact that they are reasonable with dealer delivery fees means they're looking after a customer that is going to eventually come back. I just don't get some of these dealers at the moment who charge these like excessive fees and then expect a person to come back later on. It's just never going to happen. Now, earlier I mentioned how you can get your Ranger Raptor earlier. Now, I just want to explain what I meant by that and how I kind of want you guys to behave if you are shopping for a Ranger Raptor. The way it works with Ford dealers, they get a certain allocation of Ranger Raptor depending on how many utes they sell previously. So some dealers, if they sell lots of utes, they will get a higher percentage of Raptor allocation, whereas some dealers that sell less utes will get a lower percentage of Raptor allocation. When we filmed our delivery video, Maric Ford actually had a few Raptors up their sleeve and you were able to call them to go and get your Raptor much sooner than any other city dealerships. Today, I got a text message from the sales manager there and he mentioned that that's not the case anymore. So what you need to be doing is think along the lines of the Ford dealership at Port Macquarie. You need to be calling regional dealers. And when you think about it, regional dealers will typically sell utes at a greater volume than some city dealers. City dealers will have a larger allocation as in volume-wise, but they also have much more demand because your dealership is servicing a smaller PMA. So my advice for getting a Raptor earlier based on what I understand of their system and their allocations is to go to a country dealer. Based on the allocations I've seen with Ford's dealership there in Port Macquarie, they were looking at August deliveries or July-August deliveries next year if you were to order today, which is much better than what I'm hearing at some dealers, which was a year or even 2 years away. To complicate things a little bit, Ford has upped the price of the entire Ranger lineup from March 2023 production. So if you do have a vehicle ordered, if it hasn't been built by March 2023, you are going to have to pay more. Now, you don't have to pay more, you can cancel your order and they will refund the order plus any deposits that you've made, but you will have to pay more if you do want the vehicle delivered. Costs of doing business are going up, unfortunately. There are some changes to Ranger Raptor though from March 2023 build. Instead of the spray-in bed liner that my car has, you'll actually get the plastic insert bed liner that you're finding in the rest of the Ranger lineup, such as Sport, and I think Wildtrak has it as well. You will also be able to fit the roller cover to it, and the advantage of buying that from factory is that you'll get a key with a button for the roller cover. You also get integration into the tray for the roller cover as well. So you can fit it as an aftermarket accessory, but to get the key and all that sort of stuff, it is better to order it from the dealer direct. Question from YouTube from Mitchell Martin, Ford Ranger Raptor versus Holden Colorado V8 that was cancelled, classic Ford versus Holden. Yeah, look, I remember they sort of did, was it Walkinshaw that did the V8 concept? I think it had an LSA in it as well, and you could actually get an LSA conversion through Harrop as well from memory. So yes, that would have been cool, but I don't know how well that would have driven because a V8 in something like that would be kind of crazy. Well, actually, the current generation is crazy with the twin-turbo V6. Maybe a V8 wouldn't have been that bad. Who knows? Luca Gergit sent 99 stars. Thank you, mate. Can a P-plater from Victoria drive the Raptor? Hey, that is an excellent question. Sean, who is our other video man, who is managing our questions at the moment, I'm going to ask him to look that up and then send it to me on my screen here. There is a website there where you can actually check that. I'm very curious to know because power to weight is what limits P-platers from driving these vehicles in Victoria. Given it weighs a lot, but it still has a lot of power, I'm wondering if it is under the limit. So I will check that and I'll get Sean to send me a little message here so we can find out. Question from Zachary Newen on YouTube. Any mods for the Ranger? Look, with my last cars, I've kept them pretty stock. I had aftermarket wheels on the Supra. I've kept the Tesla stock. I think I'll probably keep this stock as well. If Herod Performance does some kind of power kit for it. That might change my mind, we'll see, but I'll keep it stock for the moment. Question from Justin on Facebook. Now, Justin knows the Ranger Raptor well because he engineered the car. So he's asked when I'm going to take my car to Baja. My answer to that is, Justin, I'd prefer to take your car to Baja, the one that you've engineered with a roll cage and stuff. So invitation is open, my friend. So you know how to get in touch with me. Question from, now I think this is a good fellow Yugoslavian, Dusan. Raptor or GWM Cannon? Oh, that's a tough one. Look, for me, it's the Raptor. They are very closely compared though, obviously. Same power outputs and stuff like that. No, but in all seriousness, GWM Cannon, we're going to be testing that as part of the Ute test next week, so I'll be keen to see how that goes. An answer to your question, I think it was Luca that asked it, on P-plater compatibility. Yes, 2 thumbs up. You can drive a Ranger Raptor on your P-plates in Victoria. So yeehaw, have fun with that. I think that will be very good fun for someone that is on their Ps. Ahmed asked, will you be adding some sort of tonneau cover? I'm actually going to ask you guys, what have you done to your Ranger Raptors or even your Rangers if you haven't gone for the electric cover? Because it is open at the moment. I don't really want to spend $3,500 on the electric cover because it won't be sort of like a factory fit thing. So I'm keen to get your feedback on that. What are you guys doing to cover it up? Do you care? What happens with the water in there? I don't even know what happens. Does it seep out? Who knows? I'll be keen to see what the actual story is with that. So let me have a quick look at what else everyone has said here. So there's a question there. Do you know if any manufacturers are making a bull bar for the new T60? I think that is T60 Ute, the LDV. Good question. I'd have a look at the aftermarket for that, or even ARB. When they changed the design, it kind of went a bit skew-if. So it's probably going to affect anyone that had made accessories on that. So I'll be keen to see what the story is there. Any news on the ARB Ford partnership add-ons and their ETA for commercial sale from II Reader? Look, that is currently on the go. So that's done through your dealership or through ARB directly. This is another one where dealers are trying to gouge customers. You don't have to pay any extra for any ARB accessories that you buy through a Ford dealer that get fitted to your vehicle. The advantage of buying it through a Ford dealer is that it's then covered by your new vehicle warranty. Disadvantage of going direct to ARB is you don't get coverage under your new vehicle warranty. But then I've heard some dealers are charging like 5% on top of all the costs, which is just ridiculous. So keep that in mind. Only other downside to doing it through the dealer is that if you are subject to stamp duty, luxury car tax or anything like that, you will have to pay that on top of the accessories as well. So that is worth keeping in mind. Any plans for more Everest videos from Deepak? Yes, and I'm going to ask Igor behind the camera here, what did we review? Was it an Everest Sport or a Trend?
Which one? When?
Recently, the other Everest. We did an Everest Platinum. I think it was an Everest Sport because it had all terrains. Anyway, this is me not remembering what we were doing. But yes, Deepak, we have another Everest review coming soon. And we also sent it up the same hill that the Platinum didn't really get up all that well. So keep an eye out for that. Kian asked, do you plan on doing any ADAS mega test? Look, we would like to. It's just a little hard to organise just because we need to get an inflatable car. I have no idea what the specs are for those. And yeah, it's something that I would love to be able to do, but still TBC. Maybe ANCAP can lend us theirs. I don't know. Probably not in their good books at the moment. We'll see what happens. What else have we got here? Okay, so Musabe asked on YouTube, is the plastic thing in the bed liner better than a sprayed one? I don't know, actually. This plastic liner that they have in the bed liner just seems to be, it's just a plastic insert of some description. I guess the advantage is you could take that out before you sell the vehicle so that it's clean and empty, whereas the spray-in bed liner is going to be hard to fix if you have any dramas with it, so I'm not entirely sure what the best sort of workaround is there. On Facebook, question from Jason Reed. Hi, Paul. Have you heard of Ford dropping the aluminium colour on the 2023 Ranger Raptor? No, I haven't heard that. But I have seen an aluminium Ranger Raptor and it looks sensational, especially with tinted windows. So I do hope they keep it because I think it actually looks really good. 200 Series Land Cruiser or Raptor from Wade Robinson on Facebook. Look, I don't know. I thought, to me, tech is important, and the old Land Cruiser and the new one aren't really sort of too crash hot in terms of tech. So for me, I'd be going down the path of the Ranger. But ultimately, if you want that comfort and stuff like that, you can't beat a Land Cruiser for long distance driving and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. What else have we got here? Are you going to compare 18-inch wheels versus 20-inch on Everest? Which one is better option in your opinion? That's from Kunal. Yes, we actually did, as part of the next Everest video that's going to go live, we actually did a video on our off-road course that compared those tyres. So you can have a look at that and see how the two performed. There was a difference, but I'll leave it up to you to decide exactly what that looks like to you. Okay, so Paradoxical has asked, have you experienced any problems or pet peeves with the Raptor yet? No on both counts, but long story short, my car is currently unregistered and sitting in the car park here at work and will be for at least the next 2 weeks. There is a backlog at Vic Roads for vehicle inspections. There was then some issues with registration I was using to drive around in and stuff like that, which I'm sorting out at the moment, but I haven't actually spent some proper time in the car outside of the highway drive. So I put 1,400 Ks on it now. So, but that was all mainly highway driving. We then had to do like a run down a dirt road because there was a crash on the Hume, but that's all still sort of still happening in the background. Dave asked, what am I thinking of buying next? That is a good question. So if anyone follows me on Instagram, we had the chance to go over to Perth to catch up with one of our investors who is a billionaire, and we had a chance to drive some of his cars, and he has some insane stuff. So check out my Instagram if you want to see some of the stuff that he has, and I think perhaps I need to aim a little higher next time in terms of what I'm looking for, because he has some pretty unreal cars. The True Creator has asked, will there eventually be a long-range fuel tank for Raptor? I do hope so. 80 litres is pretty small for fun driving. When we had a chance to look underneath the Ranger Raptor during pre-delivery, there was stacks of room there. So I think eventually we will see more coming in terms of Ranger Raptor long-range tank and that kind of thing. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now, what else have we got here? Oh my God, the questions are absolutely flying in. Okay, question there from Adam White. This is a good one. Are you keeping the standard KO2s or swapping to something with better traction and dual use like the Wild Peaks? Yeah, I don't love the KO2s in the wet. They have no traction at all. That is when you are sort of on it and trying to be a bit of a hero, but if you drive sensibly, they're kind of okay. Would I swap the tyres? Look, my faith lies with engineering teams at car companies, and when they engineer a tyre for a car, that is the most optimal setup a car is ever going to have. When I start changing things around myself, like tyre pressures or tyres, it kind of upsets that balance. So to me as an engineer, I kind of just appreciate what they do and try and stick with it. But I may look at that. I'll see what it's like to drive with as a daily, and if it is sketchy in any situations, I might look at changing those tyres out for another set. So YouTube, Obi-Wan32, which damper setting is supposed to be softer, off-road or normal? I don't know actually. That's going to be a good question for my good friend Justin at Ford, the engineer of the Raptor, because to me, I don't really feel a great deal of difference between the settings. The difference you find with the settings is how it responds to jounce and also full compression and full extension, that kind of thing. It is how it's able to handle those situations. And I think that's where the main difference lies. To me, I didn't feel a huge amount of difference. It's not like an A45 AMG where comfort is kind of comfortable and then Sport Plus breaks your back. So I didn't notice that much of a difference. Brett Mason has asked, how do you fold down the rear armrest? Yes, it is a little bit technical. It's not just a case of pulling. You actually have to lift it up a little bit and then pull it backwards. So there is kind of like a funny mechanism there to do that. So it takes just a little bit of fiddling with. Eddie on Facebook has asked, how do you rate the sound system in the Raptor compared to the Tesla? Oh, look, the Tesla is worlds ahead of it in terms of the sound system. It is a B&O Play sound system, so Bang & Olufsen Play. It has a subwoofer behind the second row. It is a good sound system for a dual cab ute and probably the best standard sound system in a dual cab ute, but it's definitely not at the level of some of the higher end cars or even a Tesla for that matter. So yeah, don't expect it to blow your head off, but it is a good sound system for the purposes of a dual cab ute. Billy Arm A has asked on YouTube, will they have fold down gear shifter to make a table like F-150? No, not at this stage. The gear shifter is a rotary style. It's a sort of the style that sort of moves backwards and forwards. So it doesn't really have anywhere to fold into like the F-150 does, but I think that would be a cool feature to have some of those cool sort of bits and pieces out of F-150. They did integrate some other cool stuff like the blind spot monitor integrates the length of the trailer as well. So I think that's a pretty cool feature. And the fact that you can actually get just a little bit of extra safety around that, I think is pretty good too. Leo has asked on Facebook, what is the Raptor like in terms of ride comfort and body roll? Is it better than the Wildtrak? Look, the ride comfort is definitely better. In terms of body roll, if you have a look at our Ranger Raptor review on YouTube, when we go for a bit of a punt around the track, it has a bit of body roll, but it's all very much in check. When you do sort of get stuck into it and sort of get it into a corner, it starts rolling, but it holds itself really nicely. Everything it does is super predictable as well. So it means that when you do go for a bit of a punt, it's never going to do anything too surprising. That all changes when it rains because those tyres really are the weak point in the wet, and you need to be extra careful because, yeah, it just doesn't have a huge amount of traction there in the wet. George Halloway asked on YouTube, would you prefer your Raptor or a TRX? Look, I'd love a TRX, don't get me wrong, any day of the week, but I don't know, just the idea of converting a car to right-hand drive, I don't love. I haven't driven the official TRX that was converted in Australia to right-hand drive, so I'm hoping the steering feel feels better than the last one that we did. But I'm keen to have a shot of that, so we'll see how that goes. Oscar Wire on YouTube has asked, can you use this car for storm chasing in Australia? Yeah, I reckon. It'd be good to get away from storms. It wouldn't be any drama there. I wouldn't be driving it through anything too deep though. I think 800mm wading depth, don't exceed that because you get stuck. Carl Hakem on YouTube has asked, how long did it take delivery after receiving this shipping confirmation from Ford? Look, it took a little while. The problem was, ship left Thailand, came to Australia, had a number of stops along the way. Then once it gets here, customs have been very slow clearing cars, and we've heard this from a number of different manufacturers. It then goes to a holding yard and then gets shipped to the dealer, potentially via another holding yard as well. So it's a little bit annoying, but it does take a little while, unfortunately. But you can track ships online, so just type the name of the ship into Google and it will come up there. Anthony P, was the first thing you drew on the drawing screen a penis in the horizontal or vertical orientation? Yes, it is a great little screen to draw on because you can do stupid things like drawing a penis on there, and just for the record I did horizontal just so it was a little more realistic in terms of matching up. Shazwin asked, are you going to compare it to its competitors in the off-road course? Yes, so that is something that we're going to be doing as part of our off-road test that we're doing in the next couple of weeks. Oh my God, the questions are flying through. So if you want your question read first, make sure you use Super Thanks on YouTube or Facebook Stars because I will get to that first. It'll pop up on my screen here ahead of the others. And Igor's going to play you some video footage of the Raptor during pre-delivery now as well. Christopher Holden on YouTube, you should do track tests on utes as well. Yes, I'm working on a story idea that has been poo-pooed by some people, but I'm working on something, so that is happening slowly. Omar has asked, I get my Raptor 3rd of December, can't wait. Can I add a front winch without changing front bumper? That is a good question. I know that ARB supports winches and also different features there as well. So let me see if I can find an answer to that because I do hope that whole system has been readied for integration with winches. Okay, so I have an answer from my friend Justin, who is the boss man for Ranger Raptor at Ford. He said normal is softer than off-road. Off-road is tuned for higher speed off-road and is more aggressive than normal mode. So yeah, that is worth keeping in mind. And the cool thing is with Ranger Raptor as well, on the steering wheel, you actually adjust your suspension, steering and drive mode settings with buttons on the steering wheel. So that's pretty cool. And I actually have a question for everyone. Anyone that has had their Ranger Raptor delivered, how do you hang up on a phone call? I cannot figure out how to do that. So every single time I have to ask the other person to hang up on the phone call. There's no button on the steering wheel to answer or hang up a phone call. So if you know how to do that, please send it through in the comments section. So yeah. Anthony P asked on YouTube, on a more serious note, are you going to cover the tray with something? Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I would like to, but I don't know what options are out there. I don't really want to go down the path of the electric cover as well, but I would like to cover it with something. Zachary Newen, will there be a potential drag race between different trucks? Oh, I wonder what will happen next week at our ute comparison when we have all of the dual cab utes on sale in Australia. Keep an eye out for that video. Deshend on YouTube. Most high-performance four-wheel drives need at least 20-inch wheels to fit larger brake calipers like the Defender V8. How does Raptor only need 17-inch wheels? That is because I don't think it's been engineered for a brutal braking session. So as part of our filming that we do at Lang Lang, we basically have a little course set up and I do the same sequence of events for every single car. And that gives me a great benchmark for braking capacity and capability. I'll try that in English. Ranger Raptor was okay, but I could feel the pedals starting to fade near the end of our testing. What does that compare to? So Bentley Bentayga, the brakes on that were terrible, and that had a great deal of brake fade after a few hot laps in our filming session. Other cars that we've had brake fade in, Mitsubishi Triton, quite bad brake fade. So it isn't amazing in terms of the braking capacity. The braking capacity could be better, and if you are going to be doing any faster driving, you're going to want to upgrade the brakes. And they probably don't need a great deal done to them, but you can see that it takes up pretty much that entire area inside the alloy wheels. So I'd probably upgrade the brakes if you are going to be doing any sort of crazy driving. Luca on Facebook, thank you for the stars, mate. Will you be opening a Raptor club so we can all do day outings with Raptors only? You know what, I've suggested to Ford now a few times that they really need to do like an M Performance club or something similar with Ford stuff, because you know, if you own a Ranger Raptor, you need to be able to go and drive it somewhere. You need to experience what I experienced at Love Day when we did hot laps in the engineering cars with roll cages. Once you are in that car driving at 1,000,000 trillion miles an hour like they were, you really begin to appreciate the engineering that's gone into this and why this is more than just a sticker pack and why it is such a good ute that I think is actually good value for money when you consider what you're getting. So that is worth keeping in mind. Okay, so we're almost out of time. I'm going to answer as many of these as I can. Matthew Hayen has asked, heard any more from Roush or Herod Performance packs with driveline warranty? So yeah, I mentioned earlier the Baja 1000 Raptor that they released a little while back, and you can see that on my Facebook profile. There's pictures of it there. That had a Herod Performance sticker on it. Knowing how good Rob is with all that stuff, I think that he's probably working on some pretty awesome stuff with Ranger Raptor. And if it's like the Mustang, it'll have factory backing as well. So keep an eye on that. Matt has asked on YouTube, when's the Coyote engine swap coming? Look, a lot of people go, oh, it needs a V8. It genuinely doesn't. In Baja mode, this has anti-lag. It is way more responsive than any V8 on the market, and it is just an absolute beast to drive when it is in that Baja mode. So I don't think it needs a V8, and a V8 would make it heavier over the front end especially, potentially a little less responsive as well. So yeah, I don't think it needs that. Rest assured, it is awesome. Emerson O'Shea on YouTube has asked, what's your favourite dual cab ute? Raptor doesn't count. Look, I love a Ram, or the Silverado, the updated Silverado, but Ram 1500 I reckon is just an absolute perler. Really big fan of that. Outside of that, the rest of the Ranger stuff is pretty good as well. So Teeny4, thank you for your donation on YouTube with Super Chat with a question there. Pixelated hippo chomps on a 1-up. I don't know what any of that means. So, right, it's a sticker. Okay, that's why that makes no sense at all. Yeah, so Teeny has also followed up by saying Weet-Bix is now smaller in weight and size with same price, much like a Hilux. Okay, so Omar on YouTube, there are 6 aux switches. What are you planning on using them for? Look, I also bought something else fun that I haven't really told many people about yet, so I'll have more on that soon, but maybe I can have one of those switches firing some guns that are associated with my other car, so I'll have some interesting content on that soon. Okay, second last question. So if you do want to have the last question, send through a super chat or stars on Facebook and I'll answer that. Brett Hall has asked on Facebook, what sort of competition is there for the Raptor at the moment? None. Nothing is competition. If you have a look at everything else, they're all sticker packs or very mild changes to existing products. Nothing will compete with the Ranger Raptor at the moment in terms of how it performs and just how crazy it is to drive when you are in the right conditions. I'm hoping that changes because more competition here will force Ford to work harder in the future. But at the moment, this is such a versatile pickup truck that it would really be hard for someone to come up with something overnight. So I have heard that Hilux is going to have something like this and Toyota's working on something, but whether it actually eventuates is something to be seen because they really need to go hard with it, and Toyota is typically pretty conservative. So, okay, last question before I have to go and do other stuff. Let's have a look. I'll pick one from the screen here. Oh, actually, yeah, I'll mention this one. Michael Erasmus, big fan. He said, "I'm a big fan from South Africa. Well done on your content." Mate, I'm going to be coming to South Africa very soon. I'll be there for the launch of the new Volkswagen Amarok, so that is happening in Cape Town. So cannot wait for that, and hopefully we'll bump into some of our South African viewers and you'll be able to see a review on the new Volkswagen Amarok. I almost called it a Ranger Amarok. You'll be able to see a review on the new Volkswagen Amarok in the coming weeks once the embargo lifts for that. But cannot wait to head over to South Africa and have a cruise of that pretty soon as well and see how different it is to the Ranger in that sense. So, all right, Oscar, you asked nicely. Please do my question, please. He's asked, do you sell cars? If a car brand is only plug-in hybrid, could you get fuel instead? Do you have a car shop? If yes, what is it called? No, we don't sell cars, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you do head to carexpert.com.au, we have reviews of everything. We also have the real pricing report, which gives you an idea of how much cars are actually selling for, so you don't overpay. And we can also hook you up with a dealer as well, who will hopefully get you a better deal on a new car. So carexpert.com.au. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. Really appreciate all the questions. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel next week. We'll have a video going live with that whole pre-delivery process for my Ranger Raptor, and I answer a stack more of your questions in that video too that came from Instagram. Please flick us a subscribe/a follow on Facebook/YouTube. And hit me up on social if you ever need anything. I'm at Paul Maric there. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I need to go get a beer and some food. So thank you again. See you guys.